Kelly Krauskopf, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. If you were perfectly fine when Fever fans were bending over, kissing your ass, applauding your decisions, you better stand here and take it when Fever fans are pissed off, upset, and are voicing their displeasures. If our voice mattered that much then, you best believe it matters that much now.
All right, so the Indiana Fever president recently dropped some comments about Caitlin Clark, and honestly, the entire basketball world immediately erupted and started talking about it. And here's why this is absolutely critical. When you try to downplay the sheer, undeniable importance of your absolute franchise player, the one who changes everything for your organization, the backlash, the response, it's not just severe, it is swift and absolutely devastating. It's like karma stepping in, reminding everyone who the real leader, the real draw, actually is, and it does it in the funniest, most ironic way possible. The ramifications of this glaring error are not just significant, they are completely absurd, bordering on organizational self-sabotage. So it really makes you wonder, what exactly do these businesses think is going to happen when they actively try to cut back or minimize their biggest, most impactful stars?
Fever brand is going to get as big and go as far as Caitlin Clark takes it. And I don't think Kelly Krauskopf understands that. And the latest video that is surfacing, floating around, being consumed by Fever fans across the globe, because this is an international superstar they have on their hands. This may have been the straw that broke the camel's.
It seems pretty clear, based on the reactions pouring in from players and staff alike, that someone within the India Fever organization genuinely thought this approach was a good idea. Picture this. They're probably sitting around a conference room, recording a discussion about their grand intended brand development strategy. Completely convinced of their brilliance, they decided their big idea was to book more than just Caitlin Clark. But let me tell you, nothing, and I mean nothing, screams brilliant business strategy, quite like publicly denigrating the very individual who single-handedly saved your entire franchise from a realm of complete obscurity and insignificance. Isn't that just a head-scratcher? The Fever leadership, and I'm being incredibly polite by even calling it leadership here, went on to discuss their goal of creating a long-lasting, sustainable brand, even drawing comparisons to iconic companies like Apple. And the part where Caitlin Clark comes into all of this. Apparently her role is to make sure everyone understands that they want to avoid relying too heavily on their core players. Because, you know, everyone is so worried about their group of fundamental players, which incidentally is just peak corporate talk designed to sound profound while actually saying very little.
That we want to sustain the growth and the interest level in the franchise. I mean, this is about the Indiana Fever. Yes, we have a foundational player in Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston, and, you know, we're going to continue to add to that. But I want this team to be the leader in the country and, you know, a brand, an enduring brand, you know, like Apple or something. I mean, we have a real opportunity here.
Let me truly break down just how utterly tone-deaf and frankly baffling these remarks were, because it's genuinely hard to grasp. This executive basically stood up, metaphorically speaking, and told a fan base that is absolutely erupting on social media, a fan base that Caitlin Clark brought to them, that they want to keep the franchise growing and enthusiastic, while simultaneously and quite overtly implying that Caitlin Clark herself, the very person in charge of fueling that explosive growth and unprecedented interest, shouldn't take precedence or be seen as the primary engine. Think about it, this is like McDonald's, a global powerhouse, making concentrated claims that they want to be recognized for more than just their hamburgers, all while making a deliberate, strategic effort to hide their flagship product, the Big Mac, from the public eye. It's an insane comparison, right? As you would completely expect when you disrespect the intelligence of your passionate fan base, the fans responded instantly, and with full force. Social media platforms absolutely exploded, with users screaming at the corporation, calling them out for being completely detached from reality and utterly out of touch with what's actually happening. And to be honest, they deserved every single bit of that verbal abuse and criticism. They were successful in provoking a reaction, but clearly not the one they intended.
This isn't the NFL. This is the WNBA. A star is going to take the Fever where the Fever want to go. And that star is Caitlin Clark. Kelly, you're talking about being a leading brand. You're talking about sustaining growth, sustaining the interest level in the franchise. You know how that happens? is if Caitlin Clark stays in Indiana, is if Caitlin Clark is participating in an entertaining and exciting brand of basketball that doesn't take away and diminish her skill sets, that doesn't turn off fans that have been following her for the last 3 to 5 years.
As this entire, incredibly volatile situation truly reaches its boiling point, one undeniable truth rises above all the noise and chatter. What we are witnessing right now isn't just another news cycle. It's a pivotal moment that will echo far, far beyond a single press conference, a singular ill-advised comment, or even one isolated decision. This isn't merely about one team, or one executive, or even just one superstar player. No, this is fundamentally about the crucial direction of an entire franchise, the deeply held expectations of millions of passionate fans who have invested their time and emotion, and the profound responsibility that inherently comes with leading an organization currently standing squarely at the very center of the basketball world. Because when the spotlight is this intensely bright, when the entire world is watching this closely, every single choice made becomes a definitive statement, and every single statement, without exception, becomes a potential turning point that could alter the course of history. Now let's be real, fans today are not just observers. They are more connected, more informed, and undeniably more passionate than at any other time in history. They know the rich history of the game. They see the hard numbers, and they possess a profound understanding of the immense value of the players who are truly carrying the game forward. They celebrate excellence with fervent devotion. They staunchly defend what they believe in, and they absolutely will raise their voices loud and clear when something feels fundamentally off-kilter or unjust. And here's the crucial insight. In moments like this, those voices don't typically come from a place of mere anger or fleeting frustration. They stem from a deep, abiding loyalty, from a significant emotional and financial investment, and from the genuine desire to see the team they love reach its absolute fullest potential. The fans aren't just passive observers anymore, watching from the sidelines. They are active stake tools. They are the very heartbeat and lifeblood of the sport. And when they speak, the world listens intently. That's precisely why this moment is so incredibly defining. Because at the very core of it all stands a franchise navigating immense pressure, a fan base demanding unequivocal clarity, and a superstar whose colossal influence has utterly transformed not only a single team, but the entire landscape of the sport around it. You know, that kind of impact is truly rare in any sport, a once-in-a-generation phenomenon. That kind of presence is generational, etched into the annals of history. And let me tell you, that kind of unstoppable momentum doesn't just happen by pure accident. It's the result of something extraordinary. It happens when raw, undeniable talent, combined with a perfect window of opportunity, and then amplified by global attention, all collide in a spectacular way that literally changes everything you thought you knew. When you are blessed with a player who brings millions of brand new eyes to the game, who single-handedly raises television ratings to unprecedented heights, who fills arenas to capacity every single night, and who inspires an entire new wave of fans to fall in love with basketball, you are not just merely managing a roster of players. No, you are quite literally stewarding a movement, a cultural shift that transcends the game itself. This is precisely why the next chapter in this unfolding saga matters so immensely. Because the fundamental decisions made today in this very moment will undeniably define the entire tone and trajectory of the franchise tomorrow. These choices will determine with absolute certainty whether this organization can truly rise to the occasion and seize this monumental moment, or whether they will tragically let it slip away into regret. Championship-level teams throughout the storied history of sports have understood one simple, immutable truth. Truly great organizations don't foolishly fight their momentum. They strategically build upon it, amplifying its power. They don't dim the brilliant light of their stars. Instead, they elevate it, allowing it to shine even brighter. They don't cowardly run from pressure. They thrive and grow exponentially under its intense gaze. That, my friends, is the fundamental difference that separates strong, visionary leadership from confused, short-sighted leadership. And it's what ultimately separates long-term, sustained success from a crushing missed opportunity. And beyond the initial statements, the immediate reactions, and the ongoing debate, there lies a much bigger, far more critical question. Where does this team, the Indiana Fever, actually go from here? Because the world isn't just watching what was said. They are watching with bated breath what truly happens next. Will the franchise genuinely embrace the colossal opportunity that is so clearly in front of them? Will they actively strengthen the vital bond with their burgeoning fanbase that Caitlin Clark has brought? Will they anchor their entire identity around the phenomenal talent that has already irrevocably changed everything for them? Or will uncertainty and mixed messaging unfortunately create deep cracks that the basketball world will continue to probe and question, leading to a loss of trust and direction? What happens next won't just shape future headlines. It will fundamentally shape trust within the organization and with its fans. It will shape the very culture of the team. It will shape the way other players view the franchise, influencing future free agent decisions. It will shape the way fans show their unwavering support, or lack thereof, and it will undeniably shape the way the team positions itself in the increasingly competitive landscape of professional sports in the future. It will determine with stark clarity whether this becomes a celebrated story of incredible growth and visionary leadership, or a cautionary tale of squandered potential and strategic missteps. And that, my friends, is precisely why every single move from this moment forward carries immense weight and profound significance. But one thing is absolutely undeniable. The fans are awake, the world is engaged, and the conversation surrounding this team is louder and more impassioned than ever before. This moment has undeniably sparked a reaction, ignited a vital dialogue, and lit a fire that simply will not fade quietly into the night. And whether this pivotal moment ultimately becomes a turning point towards unity, shared vision, and unprecedented success, or a glaring warning sign of deeper systemic issues, depends entirely and exclusively on what the organization chooses to do next. Because momentum is a truly powerful thing, a force of nature. It can lift you higher than you ever possibly imagined, carrying you to unimaginable heights. Or it can vanish, dissipate into thin air, before you even fully realize it's gone. So as we collectively move forward in this evolving narrative, make sure you stay tuned, stay alert, and stay deeply connected to this story. Because this story, believe me, is nowhere near finished. In fact, it's truly just beginning to unfold its full complexity. The next statement, the next crucial decision, the next thrilling season, each one will incrementally reveal exactly where this franchise stands, what kind of identity they're genuinely ready to build, and what legacy they aspire to leave. And truly believe this, the entire basketball world will remember, with absolute clarity, how this critical moment was handled. They will remember who listened to the voices of the fans, who adapted their strategy, and who ultimately rose to the immense challenge presented before them. This is so much bigger than just a headline, bigger than a single quoted remark, bigger even than a single isolated controversy. This right here is a crossroads, a defining moment where everything that happens next will fundamentally shape the legacy of a franchise for many, many years to come. And trust me when I say this, the next chapter of this story is going to be absolutely powerful, gripping, and impactful. So please make sure you're here for it. Make sure you don't miss what comes next. Because if you thought things were intense and dramatic now, just you wait. The real story is still unfolding, and that very next move, that, my friends, is the move that will inevitably change everything. It's as if these supposedly intelligent business people suddenly developed collective amnesia, completely forgetting the franchise's recent past. Before Caitlin Clark arrived on the scene, perhaps a generous 4,000 people were watching the Fever on a truly good night, if they were lucky. The television ratings for each and every game were so abysmal, so low that hardly anyone even bothered to tune in. In the vast competitive realm of professional sports, the final thoughts and what's next group, the national conversation, the buzz, was essentially non-existent for the Fever. Then, boom, CeCe shows up and suddenly, they're not just playing, they're selling out arenas night after night, setting unprecedented records for attendance that hadn't been seen in years, and becoming absolutely central to national sports conversations. This is huge, but here's the kicker. In their infinite baffling wisdom, they seem to genuinely believe this transformation happened because of their amazing organizational structure, or some long-term strategic genius. They don't grasp the reality. They literally have a generational gift, a player whose talent is so profound, so compelling, that people are truly genuinely interested in watching basketball, specifically her basketball. The illusion they're trying to project is utterly faltering, completely collapsing under its own weight. And the comparison to Apple? Honestly, it's hilarious. Because Apple fundamentally changed everything precisely by building their entire brand around innovative, groundbreaking products like the iPhone and the iPad. Their attempts to downplay the iPhone's importance or pretend that the iPad was some minor accessory were non-existent. They built everything around them and wholeheartedly embraced their innovative inventions. This precisely is what the Fever ought to be doing with Caitlin Clark. You see, historically, certain lucrative franchises have always soared and excelled by centering everything around their stars. You don't try to reduce Michael Jordan's unparalleled influence when you have him. You build the entire business, the entire culture, around maximizing his unbelievable potential. You don't behave like a team when you have Magic Johnson, implying he'd be just as popular without the Showtime Lakers. The Lakers didn't accidentally invent Showtime. It was a deliberate embrace of their superstar. It was no coincidence that the Bulls became a global sensation. These phenomenal successes happened as a direct result of intelligent organizations, realizing they had truly special players, and then building their entire identity, their entire marketing, their entire strategy, around demonstrating those extraordinary skills. But instead of acknowledging the simple, undeniable fact that they had won the lottery, it appears that the Fever's leadership either didn't get that memo, or they actively disregarded it in favor of something else. They seem more concerned with allocating the wealth, whatever that means in this context, and making sure that everyone gets their shine. They don't seem to be as concerned with actually winning trophies and building a championship legacy, as they are with managing perceived hurt feelings or internal politics. Let's also talk about how incredibly timely, and therefore even more ridiculous, these comments truly are. This whole debacle came right after we as fans and observers had been watching Caitlin Clark encounter significant difficulties in a system that frankly seems to underutilize her prodigious ability. We've seen her struggle to make consistent contact, deal with teammates who frequently don't pass her the ball, and take part in an offensive scheme that seems almost pre-arranged to lessen her effectiveness, rather than elevate it. So what do they do when supporters are already frustrated and irritated with the organization's current management? As if they were trying to put out a roaring fire with gallons of gasoline, they leave the public with comments that basically confirm everyone's absolute worst fears about their main priority, which appears to be anything but maximizing their superstar. The retaliation from the fanbase was immediate, brutal, and entirely justified. Admirers started to openly question the organization's actual worth and value. People began talking about how Caitlin Clark could genuinely benefit somewhere else, plotting her potential departure the moment her contract status allowed for it. That, my friends, is the exact opposite of what you want when you're trying to build an enduring, beloved brand. And here's the worst part. Fans have every right to be deeply concerned. If the company doesn't definitively show that they are committed to success, committed to maximizing her, Caitlin Clark simply won't just stay on eternal. She is far too talented, far too competitive, and has far too much integrity to squander her prime years waiting for a corporation that doesn't genuinely appreciate or properly utilize its most valuable assets. What's particularly informative is comparing this with other major sports markets. What would happen if a player of Caitlin Clark's magnitude were currently playing in a place like Boston or New York with this kind of glaring organizational dysfunction? The daily sports radio shows would absolutely destroy the management. There would be ongoing, relentless pressure and immediate current demands for fundamental modification. However, the Fever's leadership seems to think they can get away with this kind of backward thinking and tone-deaf public relations because of their location in Indianapolis, a market they are seemingly monitoring in terms of attracting attention, which is ironic in itself. The biggest irony in this entire bizarre scenario is that in a misguided effort to protect themselves from becoming overly dependent on Caitlin Clark, they are actually exponentially increasing their danger of losing her entirely. When you consciously don't value everything you own, you are essentially creating the perfect conditions that make that incredibly valuable asset available to other companies, other organizations, that will act decisively to embrace. And trust me, there are a number of firms, a plethora of teams, that would be absolutely delighted to welcome Caitlin Clark with open arms and establish their entire brand around her, in marketplaces that would not just embrace her fame, but amplify it, rather than trying to control it in order to generate some manufactured sense of corporate relaxation. The idea of karma in this whole situation is that instead of coming across as a well-run, forward-thinking business, their comments immediately sparked the exact kind of widespread disagreement, criticism, and uproar they were probably desperately trying to avoid in the first place. They don't look like strategically balanced leaders. They come across like tone-deaf CEOs who don't even understand their own company plan, even though they arrived with what they might consider well-balanced priorities. That's probably the most accurate assessment of what genuinely happened here. Some people are incredibly blessed with phenomenal talent or opportunity, but they don't fully understand why that blessing occurred. They mistakenly think that their success can be easily replicated without the specific person who achieved it, and they are unfortunately about to learn a very expensive, very public lesson about the harsh realities of professional sports. When you minimize your team's most publicly relevant player, when you actively try to diminish their impact, don't be surprised if the entire basketball community calls you out loudly and clearly for it. The Fever's leadership has only learned this crucial information the hard way. So I have to ask you, What are your thoughts on this whole situation? Please let me know down in the comments if you've seen other companies try to minimize their own celebrities and what happened then. If you agree, click that like button. And to view more takes that relentlessly break through the corporate heat and get to the real truth, make sure you smash that subscribe button. This situation is truly reaching its boiling point. And the heat, the music, it's all part of the unfolding drama.